So that same day that I cried at the rehabilitation facility, I climbed in my car and I drove down to Corvallis, Oregon, where the Oregon State University was, where the fur breeder research facility, the largest fur breeder research facility in the nation, existed. For 65 years, they had existed doing research for the fur farm industry without any, even as much as a protest against them. I climbed up on the roof of the building, found there to be no security, and I reasoned that what the best thing to do to this place was to destroy it. And I told myself, look, you just finished an undercover investigation of this fur farm industry. You've been writing about it. You did this rehabilitation project. You've been writing about that. You've been, your name is totally connected to fur farms. Everybody knows that you're, the expert right now in fur farms. If there's an ALF campaign that targets the fur farm industry, it's not going to take a rocket scientist for them to figure out that I'm involved. And I remember those mink. And I told myself, what do I face? 4 years in prison, 5 years in prison, 10 years in prison? That's nothing compared to having my neck wringed by a fur farmer. That's nothing compared to spending 8 months of a miserable existence in a 10-inch wide cage. Mink are wild animals. And like all wild animals, the worst thing you can do to them is not physical pain, but physical restraint. To force an animal that normally travels 5 to 10 miles every night to live in a cage 8 inches, 10 inches wide, as the mink farm industry does right here in Erie, Pennsylvania too. So I knew what we had to do, and I gathered a few warriors that I trusted, and within 10 days we struck Oregon State University's experimental fur farm. We started a fire in the experimental feed barn that their focus was the dietary requirements of mink that was necessary to get a quality pelt while not costing too much money. And they were essentially developing the scientific diets that allowed mink to be, or allowed the recessive genes that create the fur pelt quality to exist. And so we destroyed their experimental fur barn. We got into the main research laboratory and destroyed everything that we could within the hours that we were there. We confiscated record books, address books, Rolodexes, files on every single fur farm in the country, every single fur farm researcher in the country. We took that information with us. Within 6